Okay, let's talk a little bit about the drawer fronts and the cabinet doors. This is a rough drawing. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but that's a rough drawing of what we've got inside the trailer and a whole bunch of measurements and all that. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to build the cabinet doors and the drawer fronts out of this oak. And let me show you a little something about what I did here. Let's see. Again, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but this is quarter sawn. And what that means is I had a bunch of oak scraps that really weren't big enough to do what I wanted to do. So what I did is, like, say this was a scrap. I put it, here, laminated another scrap to it, and in this case I just used some 2-part epoxy. And there was a couple where it was two laminates thick, and there was a couple that it was 3. And then I turned them on their sides and then sliced them after they were laminated together to get this look. Again, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but this one here is actually 3 boards and this one is 2. When you cut them sideways, they get kind of an interesting look to them, what quarter sawn lumber does. So what these are the frames for all of the cabinets. And what I have over here on the table saw, this is the beginning of the drawer fronts. And here, maybe you can see how that quarter sawn effect, it's just interesting. I kind of like it. And again, this was all scrap, so this one came out 3 nice pieces. The last 3, I was short a little bit, so I actually had to edge glue some pieces to get enough. So what you'll see here is I just used my table saw, made a groove, cut a piece of wood to fit the groove, and glued them in together. Now normally you couldn't do that, but because these will all be edge glued, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 drawer fronts. These will all be edge glued to create the drawer fronts. It'll hide. See, here's another joint right here. It'll hide that joint. But the next step is I need to join all of these. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to bore you with actually running it through the saw, because I don't have the right tools anymore. I'm going to have to use the table saw. Basically what I'm going to do is lower that blade down to about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to lay, let me see if I can do this where you can see it with the camera. Imagine that blade down a bunch more. And I'm just going to lay the wood down very carefully, making sure that it doesn't poke out on this end, and then run it forward and stop before it pokes out at that end, and it'll leave a groove here. Again, I'll cut another piece of wood, the right size, put them in there, and in the same way that I did these, putting these 2 pieces together here, it'll put all 3 of these together, and I'll end up with the 4 joints. So that was a long explanation, but we get that done, we'll be right back. Okay, now what I've got done here is I've marked just very light pencil marks, X's on each individual piece, and I've got the saw set. You can kind of get a low angle there. We're right about 1/2 inch out, and I've got the width set to be in the ballpark of 1/2 inch. Now you can go crazy and try and get it perfect, or me being a little lazy, and rarely perfect even if I try my hardest. The thing about marking them is, as long as I make the cuts with the X's all facing out, or in for that matter, but all facing the same direction, then when all the cuts are made, when I lay it back out like this, all the cuts will match each one. Also, what I did here is I took a carpenter's pencil and I marked, it's a better angle, I marked pretty much where the blade disappears on both sides. So when I take my piece and fire up the saw, I will, as long as I stay past that mark, and as I let it cut at this end, as long as I don't reach that mark, then the cuts won't show at either end of the piece. Now obviously I'm not going to show you doing it because it's noisy, but that gives you an idea. So we'll be back in just a second. Alright, let's show you where we are here. Now, we've gone ahead and each one of these has 3 pieces. There's the groove, groove there, and of course a groove there. So what we need to do now, if we're going to do like, this is kind of like a biscuit joint. It's really the best way to put it. So what I've done is I know that the width of this groove is the same width as that blade. So it's just a matter of setting up to cut a small piece, and then we'll rotate these up, and the pieces I've cut will fit down. Actually, it's hard to do this two-handed. Well, one-handed. And that will fit down inside the groove. Now, of course, they are rounded down inside here. You know, this is slightly rounded. So if you want more gluing surface, you can actually whittle off and round off the edges. You can see there's the depth. You can see there, then as you get closer to the end, you'll see it pop up in a second. Here it comes. So you could actually whittle it off to make more of it fit. And really all this is you're increasing the glued surface from just these 2 flat edges to these 2 flat edges plus the biscuit in between, which would be this little guy right here. So what I'm going to do now is literally just put them all together. Obviously for each one I'll need 2. Here's the rest of them sitting over here. And we'll glue them up and clamp them after I cut 8 out of this piece of pine. And yeah, should I use oak? Yeah, I suppose a purist might say, hey, you should put an oak biscuit in oak. But, you know, considering the glue is actually stronger than either one of the woods, if it's glued adequately, it really doesn't matter, because you're actually getting more glue surface doing this. So let me go ahead and cut all 8 of them, and when we come back, we should have them just sitting there ready to dry for us. Be right back. And there they are, all clamped up together, and I've got them sitting on top of a piece of 3/4 inch plywood that'll help keep everything straight. And all the little joint pieces are in. You can see some damp spots where I just wiped off the excess glue. And oops, in fact I missed a spot right there. There we go. Anyway, we'll bring you back when that's all dried up and I take them apart. Well, alright. And there are the drawer fronts. They still need, you know, some hand sanding and a little bit of cleaning up. But I think it'll look nice. I kind of like the way the texture of the wood came out. So now I guess these will have to sit and wait until we get ready to install all of the trim. Getting closer. This is a little bit longer project. Oh, and just by the way, that big garbage bag is full of planer shavings. That's going to make some awesome mulch. Alright, y'all. Fair winds. We'll see you next time around.